Hello, folks. This is Kevin from Good Day, Good Prayers. Today we're going to be talking about the SNAP program, but we're not going to be talking about it from the standpoint of the people who are not going to be getting the benefits. We're going to be talking about it today from the standpoint of the single mothers with children in the home. Some of them very small children, some of them may even be teenagers. But they cannot get any kind of benefits, any kind of help. They don't get help with their rent. They don't get help with groceries. They may get medical for their children, but 9 times out of 10, they can't get medical for themselves. So if something goes desperately wrong for them, unless it happens on the job, they're up a creek. And these people are the ones who are trying. They maybe are making $18 or $19 or $20 an hour, and you would think, well, that's a lot of money and they're doing well. Unfortunately, they're not. By the time that you bring home your money, you're bringing home $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 a month if you're lucky. The problem is that the government takes an awful lot of it. And then inflation takes a lot of it. One of the worst things about inflation, you can go to some of the smaller communities yet, and you can get a rental for $700 or $800, sometimes $850. But if you are living in a little bit larger community where most of these people have to live in order to get good jobs, you're now paying $900, $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 a month. Now, if you're bringing home $1,800 a month or $1,700 a month after taxes, and you're having to pay $900 or $1,000 to rent a place, and if you have children, you have to rent a place. You can't live in your van. You can't live in an old rickety, broken down bus or any of that kind of thing. And even if you did, you wouldn't be able to afford to fix it up. When it comes to rent, you should only have to pay a quarter of your income. But unfortunately, many of these people are paying half and even more than half of their income just for rent. That doesn't take in the electric, doesn't take in the heat, doesn't take in the forced car insurance that you have to pay, and it doesn't take in the gas that you have to pay to get back and forth to work. But you can't get SNAP benefits. You can't get housing help or anything else. And as I said, maybe you're going to get medical for your children. But in those cases, the woman can never, ever get medical help for herself. And so, as I said, if something goes wrong, they're in trouble. My heart goes out to those people. Now, the people who won't work, the people who are on all of these programs, I don't feel bad for them. If they lose their benefits, maybe they'll realize that they should have been working all along. But the people who are out there with the jobs, unable to get any of those benefits, are not being helped anyway. I think it's a terrible thing when a government, and that's what we've had over the last many, many decades, is a socialist government that wants to control your life from the time that you're in the cradle until the time that you go to the grave. And even being buried or being cremated is another cost. Everything is a cost. Now, that wouldn't be bad if people were able to live on a good income without the taxes, without the inflation. But that's not how it's working. They never wanted us to be able to have any disposable income. They never wanted us to have any special benefits. But if you were willing to not work, now you're in their wheelhouse. They want to help you. The reason that they want to help you is because of the fact that by helping you, they're able to prove their point. Eventually, they were hoping to get the people who were working off of their jobs so that they could wind up taking care of them too. Now, once they get enough people on the program, then they start cutting benefits, and that's a real problem. If you are a person who is a chronic non-worker, you'll have the benefits until the day you die. But if you're somebody who's trying, if you have shown a propensity to get a job, even if you're out of a job at the time, they'll give you benefits and then they'll start to cut your benefits. I've seen that time and time again. It's wrong. What I want to propose, there is a group of people out there that are trying. They're working very hard. They cannot afford to do a lot of the things for their children that their children need. The reason they can't is because they're working. They're dealing with the same inflation that we're dealing with. They're dealing with the same taxes that we're dealing with. And unfortunately, they cannot make ends meet. I have a burden for those people, and I would love to see programs being formed in the communities around the country, even the small communities where there are no real major cities, maybe small cities and towns, and even small towns. These places are the places where there are people that are working very hard. They're traveling 45 minutes each way to get to work, or an hour each way to get to work. And they're paying a little bit less for rent, but unfortunately they still can't make ends meet. These people really need our help. I want you to start praying, and I want you to start coming up with ideas as to how these people can be helped. If there was a non-profit organization that could raise money to maybe pay half of a person's rent during the course of a month, they could use that other half for something else. And I think that if that organization were to say, well, now if we pay half of your rent this month and we do it for, say, a year, what would you do with that extra money? And if they can come up with some really good answers, maybe it would benefit that organization to help those people. If they have one income and they can't get help from the government, they need to get help from somewhere, because many of these people are drowning. Many of these people are in very bad shape. I know some of those people personally. They can't get any benefits. They've tried to get benefits, but because they've had to move back in with parents when the man left the family, they can't get benefits. And if they continue to work, they can't get benefits. And yet, in order to get the benefits, they have to work, because of the fact that they are not the chronically needy. They are people that have fallen on hard times. We need to find ways of developing programs, nonprofit programs, that can go out and get funding, and then go out and help people that are in these situations. And I would love to see this happening in the various communities around the country. And it may not have to happen for long, because I believe that when President Trump is able to put the new economy into place, that people are going to have money hand over fist. But there's going to be a period of time until that is able to transpire that people are going to need the help. So let's pray about it. Put in the comments below if you have any ideas of how to put together these kinds of programs to be able to help the people who are desperately in need. And let's pray for the single mothers and fathers out there that can't make ends meet and cannot get help from the government because they have a job. This is Kevin from Good Day, Good Prayers, and I want you to have a good day. A good day always starts with good prayers. And if your good prayers reach the throne of God, that's your key. And if you're going to be praying for these people who desperately need the help, I'm sure that's a key as well. So with all of that said, you folks have a good day.